And so we find ourselves to the fourth studio album of Ayreon, a two-parter, shall we say. So today I'm going to look at the first part, and I'm going to leave the second part to a little bit later because technically this is two different albums. Many bands have done this in the past. Opeth has done it with The Damnation and Deliverance. Devin Townsend has done it with Deconstruction and Ghost. And I love when bands do this. I love when bands are able to kind of separate their two minds and really dive deep into one of those two minds. And most of the time it's a heavy, soft thing. That's kind of what we have here. And we'll start off with the first one of the Universal Migrator Part 1, the Dream Sequencer. I'm alone in my house on Mars. The Universal Migrator Part 1, the Dream Sequencer. So the Dream Sequencer, or the Universal Migrator Part 1 from Ayreon, is the fourth studio album. The over-the-top, grandiose craziness isn't quite as present as it was in the past albums. I think out of the two albums, I prefer this one a little bit more, even though I find, compared to his past albums, this one isn't quite as meaty or as realized, I feel, as an overall album. It's a little bit different. It kind of reminds me a little bit more of, say, like the actual fantasy, where the songs themselves are greater than the overall production or the overall work here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a different flavor. I mean, the overall concept is this entity, this alien entity almost, that is going through different times of, I guess, of the universe, kind of experiencing different things. I think that has always been the strength of Ayreon, is creating a really compelling story, and I think that's why it's a little bit of a letdown here, because the story just isn't overly all that compelling of this Universal Migrator. The songs, though, that are found on this is the highlight. My House on Mars is a fantastic treat where it's a little bit more on the heavy side, but it isn't quite as heavy as we are used to within the Ayreon discography. The overall sound of this album is very akin to, say, like, I Wish You Were Here, Welcome to a Machine. It's got that droning kind of background sound throughout a lot of this, and My House on Mars definitely has that. The other song that I really enjoy is the One Small Step, hakening to that exploration or that pioneering, going out where nobody has gone before. And that's kind of a concept that is found on this album, with My House on Mars being the only one there. The One Small Step, I believe it's the first man on Earth. These songs all have that concept of being the first and having this isolation with that as well. And these songs don't really go too far off of the mark. Like, I feel as though Ayreon hadn't quite experimented as much with these sounds as I was hoping he would. They all kind of dance and turn in and around the same center. And I think this is kind of the point within this. Whenever you're dealing with this type of music, you never really go too far outside the box that you've put yourself into, and that is the exploration point. You're kind of digging down as opposed to digging out. And again, it's not necessarily a knock, it's just something that I was aware of while I was listening to this piece. So for instance, The Shooting Company of Captain Francis B. Croc and Dragon on the Sea, both of these songs are fantastic at creating a really great atmosphere. The Shooting Company is a little bit more on the mellow side, and I do enjoy kind of, the harmonizations that we have within the lyrics. I think this is where Ayreon is really, or at least Anthony, is really shining his vocal presence, because it is quite present in this, and I really enjoy that. The Dragon of the Seas doesn't really connect with me. I don't exactly know what was going on within this track, and even though I've listened to this album now for a couple of years, it's really hard to kind of bring this song back to life. Now, that cannot be said about the Temple of the Cat. I really enjoy this song, and I love the harmonizations within the two vocalists here. A really great, I don't want to say dance because I use that metaphor a little too much, but it is definitely a really great meshing of these two vocalists.
Shining star, light up the sky, guide me to the temple of the cat.
And I love the playing styles of Carried by the Winds. This is where the lead guitars are really starting to come to the forefront and make themselves a little bit more present. In the songs leading up to this, there were guitars and there were some really standout moments, but here I feel is when they took center stage, and I think this is also where some more ideas are coming to the forefront that we'll see in future albums as well. But it's really the last two songs, or I guess 3 songs, that really get me excited. And The Druid's Turn to Stone is a fantastic song, and I can just very visualize what's going on in this song. You know, kind of like a Stonehenge feeling where you've got all these woodland druids coming to the forefront and just creating this magical spell of just creating life. And just, it's so vivid and so dreamlike that I can't help but love it. And I love the vocals on this song. The vocals are very prominent and very in your face, and I can't help but gush when I listen to this. But the highlight on this entire album is definitely The First Man on Earth. This is where we have a star performer on this album. We had a star performer in the last one of, Into the Electric Castle with Fish. And this one is Neil Morse. And Neil Morse is on this song, and he does a fantastic job on this. And it's no surprise that he chose this song to be the star performer of, because it deals very much with the first man on Earth. He's kind of thinking through, what is life and what is all this. And he was kind of saying the journey of the Bible man, and so that fits perfectly within Neil Morse's zeitgeist and how he likes to write songs. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had to sit down with Ayreon or Anthony Lucassen and said, I kind of want it to be a little bit like this, or would you mind if I improvise a little bit? And this is what we found.
This is the dawn of time. Looking through the eyes of the Bible man. This is the dawn of time.
And then finally, the Dream Sequencer reprised is kind of main theme that we had at the beginning of the album that kind of opened it up, kind of close it off with a little bit of a reimagining. It's a little bit slower. It's that reprise that we had from the beginning. So I like the fact that this album has a bookend. So overall, I actually really dig this album. I know a lot of people don't, and I guess I should give this guy a rating. So overall, I'd probably have to give this one as a download. You got to download this guy, because I do recognize the flaws within it. I do recognize, this album isn't perfect, and it's one of the, I don't want to say it's one of the weaker ones, even though I enjoy it that much more than some of his other stuff, but it is one that I would still recommend checking out, because it does deserve to be in your collection, and it deserves a good listen. So that's about it for the Universal Migrator Part 1, the Dream Sequencer. What did you guys think about it? Let me know of your own thoughts about this album down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Look out for the second part of this later on this month. I'm going to be doing 2 this month as opposed to just the single one. So take a look for the Universal Migrator Part 2, The Flight of the Migrator. That's where we really dive into the heavier aspect of the band. And thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.